Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed the questions and learned a lot. What I want to do today is kind of share with you an update on the Port Authority of who we are, how important peanuts are to us at the GPA and your exports and what you do. And then also share with you our growth plans, our robust CapEx projects we have planned over the next 10 years so you understand kind of the gateway and infrastructure that's going in here in Savannah supports your products moving globally around the world. And the last thing I'll share with you are a couple of global issues that are out there that we deal with on a daily basis and kind of give you an update on those and how they're impacting Savannah and global trade. And then I wanted to share with you, this is a picture of my farm in Statesboro. So peanuts mean a lot to us. We've got, just need a little more rain. I was talking with Ken out in the lobby this morning, but this is our farm this year with peanuts. So appreciate what you guys are doing. This is up in Bullitt County. Right behind this, I've got a quick 30-second video. I know that we're going to have a port tour this afternoon, so looking forward to hosting you all on terminal this afternoon, I think around 2 o'clock. But a quick video of kind of sights and sounds of the Georgia Port Authority for those that haven't seen it before up close. So I'll start with that. So Port of Savannah is the largest gateway for peanut exports in the United States. Over 34% of all peanut exports move via our gateway here in Savannah. You can see the growth, kind of what happened during COVID. Obviously, we had record volumes in Savannah, and then obviously almost 13% growth year over year from calendar year 22 to 23. And this presentation will be available for anyone that would like for this after to be made available to everyone in the room here. Again, we talked about exports. Savannah is the most balanced import-export port in the United States. We're about 57% import, 43% export. If you throw empty exports into that, we're almost a one-for-one, very balanced on trade. But you can see where ag exports make up a great percentage of our total export volume through Savannah, where peanuts fall into 3% of that. Our model, we have a two-pillar model here. Containers account for about 98% of our total volume, and then we have RoRo, which is roll on, roll off. Doesn't mean much for most folks in this room, but if you're ever driving down 995, for those of you from Florida, I know there's a gentleman in the room early, if you ever when you're driving home down 995, you look to your left, you'll see the second largest roll on, roll off facility in the United States. And with everything that happened in the news, you follow the Port of Baltimore, we've had some record volume this year. And we'll have a record year for the fiscal year. Those volumes will come out in a few weeks, but record months to finish off the second half of our fiscal year this year. But container volumes account for over 98% of our total revenue via the Port of Savannah. And that's Garden City Terminal here. And then I'll share with you some expansion plans on an existing terminal that has been handling non-containerized freight all these years, and then a new facility that we're building in the 2030, 2032, 2034 timeframe. So this slide here just shares with you what we're doing on the rail. I know not a lot of you probably aren't using rail. You're trucking everything in from Southwest Georgia and from your farms. But growing, as the port grows, we've got to invest more on intermodal. And what we're doing is, as I said, imports account for almost 60% of our total volume. So we want to move those import freight closer to market. And what that means for you as exporters is we're putting empty equipment closer to your farms. And so rather than having to travel 3.5, 4 hours one way to the Port of Savannah or to port gateways, you have inland rail terminals that supply empty equipment to your market. So that's going to allow your truckers to have much quicker turn times, multiple moves throughout the day, as compared to possibly one turn to and from a port gateway. This is going to put those boxes closer to your market. So as you're looking at this, Northwest Georgia, that facility opened in 2018. We'll have a record year this year. So think, it's 75 miles from Knoxville, just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee. We'll probably break over 36,000 rail lifts this year. Northeast Georgia, think Gainesville. We've got a facility that's going to open up in 2026. We've partnered with CSX. I know there's not really anyone from North Carolina, but just as informational purpose, we have a rail ramp now near Raleigh, Durham in North Carolina. And then West Georgia, which probably has the biggest impact for all of you. Think the LaGrange area, you follow Kia Motors over there in West Point. This facility will service that importer, but that importer will also provide empty containers to your market. So I think that'll have a positive impact for peanut growers in Southwest Georgia long term. And so that facility I think maybe 2028 timeframe. It's the land's been purchased, but that facility is down the road. But these are some inland projects that we have on the map that will have an impact on your operations. Again, these are just the terminals. This slide deck we made available for everyone. Up in the top left there, Garden City Container Terminal, largest, as you saw in the video, largest single container terminal in the Western Hemisphere. And our ocean terminal is the one that you see when you look upriver from the west and to your right. Those big blue cranes that you saw arrived about 3 weeks ago, $20 million a piece. We had eight new cranes arrive last January. They're already up and running at our Garden City terminal. But those blue cranes represent the fundamental shift that we're talking about as Ocean Terminal converts to 100% containers over the next 4 years. It's about a $1 billion project to convert that facility from the existing container operation to 100% containers by 2028. And then right across the river from there, where we are today, on this side on Hudson Island, when you cross over the bridge to the right-hand side, is a 400-acre piece of property that we will call the Savannah Container Terminal, and that will add about 3.5 million 20-foot container equivalent units of capacity to our market 2030 and beyond. So this kind of gives you some perspective of where these facilities are located and where we are today. This is a photograph of our Garden City Container Terminal. Again, largest single container terminal in the Western Hemisphere. Today we can house 105,000 containers in our facility. Some of you probably experienced during COVID, we heard about ships being backed up at anchor and delays of vessels getting in, trucks getting in and out. So what we've done, we've invested in infrastructure. We now have 7 large vessel berths here where we can dock seven big ships at one time. During COVID, we could only house about 87 to 88,000 containers. We're now up to 105,000. So that means more efficiency for you, more empty equipment. We have a little over 23,000 empties on our terminal today. So as an exporter, that's very important. Exporters appreciate having plenty of empty equipment to be able to stuff product into and move it globally. The other piece I'll mention to here, at the bottom left, there's something called the Garden City Terminal West. This is a $250 million expansion project that's up and running now. What this means for exporters is this is a 20,000 additional grounded spaces that allows exporters to bring their containers in outside the begin-receive window. So if you're familiar with that, we allow an export to come on our facility 7 days in advance prior to vessel operations. And with this new yard, we're able to bring your export box in loaded 9, 10, 11 days out rather than 7 days. You can then pick up an empty container and get it back to your farm and stuff and bring the loaded container back, keep your operation going. So this is something no other port in the country can offer. We have available land. We'll be able to expand and do this. So this is a new product that we can offer to you as an exporter today. Savannah, third largest port gateway in the United States. When I started with the GPA 23 years ago, we were actually the 7th largest port in the country. We handled 1 million 20-foot containers for the first time in 2001. This number, as you see, is just under 5 million. We'll break that this year. We've been there in the past. During COVID, we handled about 5.8 million 20-foot containers during the peak of COVID. And now this year, we're on the uptick. The second half of this fiscal year, those numbers will again be out in a few weeks, but we'll break over the 5 million mark. Had a really strong second half of the fiscal year last year. Global connectivity, we rank 42nd in the world. This is a stat by the United Nations Council on Trade and Development, so this isn't a GPA statistic, but globally, Savannah ranks 42nd in the world as far as global connectivity. So what that means for you as exporters is that you can reach anywhere in the world via our gateway. You'll see the West Coast, they rank in the 60s, 70s, 100s. We're only second behind the Port of New York and New Jersey here in the United States as far as global connectivity. And so, as I said, we sell that you can reach anywhere in the world via our port gateway. We also talk to a lot of customers. Just to share with you, one of the things our sales team does every day, we're focused on growing exports, but we're also focused on import growth. And we look at West Coast conversion back to Savannah, and we're focused on the geography of Savannah being the westernmost East Coast port. It really helps us service the population shift in the U.S. Southeast over the last 20 years. It's been moving to the U.S. Southeast. This doesn't have a major impact for all of you at this time, but this is the Mason Mega Rail. We've recently completed this expansion. It's the largest on-dock rail terminal in the United States. We handle over 40 trains in and out of this facility every day, and we have a capacity of over 2 million 20-foot containers annually, and we're about 50% that capacity today. This is our reach on the import side. We can reach over 45% of the U.S. population via our gateway within 1 to 3 days, either by truck or rail. And again, I mentioned that the U.S. Southeast has been the fastest growing demographic in the United States over the last 20 years. So that's really one of the keys for our growth and investment in the port here, is to be able to capture that market People are coming here for a lot of reasons. Sustainability, 1 in every 9 jobs in the state of Georgia, 561,000 jobs have a direct correlation to the port here. We're obviously investing in going green. This is a major piece of that customers that want to hear about. All of our container cranes are electric. When I started 23 years ago, we had 2 electric cranes. Now all 34 are electric. We're electrifying our rubber-tired gantry cranes. We treat our stormwater drain off. One thing I found very interesting, I learned this one with a conference called Amazon years ago. We have 7 traffic circles on our terminal, so those of you that are coming today will get to see that. We started off with 1, now we have 7, and you have less greenhouse emissions with traffic circles. So as you see those populate around your neighborhoods, I know in Bullitt County they're becoming popular, but they're better for the environment. You have less stop and go. So we've got 7 of those now. We've actually put 1 outside of our gate. You'll get to see that today. So we'll spend a little over $4 billion over the next decade in CapEx projects. A little over right at $730 million spent last year in CapEx spend. So I'm going to share with you where that money's going. So as I said, we had 8 new container cranes arrive last year, $20 million a piece. These first cranes you see in this picture are 6 of those 8. And then we had 4 arrive again 3 weeks ago, the blue ones you see at our ocean terminal right upriver of you. These are the tallest and the widest cranes in the United States with a 165-foot air draft. They're 6 truck lanes apiece. So one thing I didn't mention to you, saw that ship in the video, and you're in a great location to see these ships travel up the river. But the Empire State Building is a little over 1,220 foot tall. These big ships that are calling our port today hold over 17,000 containers, and they're over 1,300 foot long. So if you were to turn them up from stern to bow, you've seen how big they are. They're longer than the Empire State Building is tall. Those are the ships that are calling the port today. And it's really interesting. Just 12, 13 years ago, we thought the biggest ships we would see would hold 8,500 containers, and now the largest ships that we see are holding right at 17,000 coming to our port today. We do have a plan that's not in the presentation here, but we have a plan to raise our bridge a little over 20 foot over the next 3 years, and that will allow us to handle ships up to 18 to 23,000 capacity. So we do have a plan to handle those larger ships when they start to call Savannah. So you'll be well represented, and this port will be well prepared to handle those ships when they start to call here. That'll be later this decade before those ships are ready to call the U.S. East Coast. This is just an expansion. Yard means nothing for Peanuts really, other than the fact that this is an additional 5,000 grounded spaces for containers, a new warehouse that we've built that's on terminal. Not really a major impact for all of you, but I wanted to share with you just where we're thinking and where we're going. This is a grounded operation for a warehouse, not something you see traditionally, but the future of what warehouses might look like down the road. This is the Garden City Terminal West kind of close up. This is what it looks like today. This is 20,000 grounded spaces. So this has really a major impact and positive impact for your operations out there to be able to bring containers in that are loaded, ground them here, pick up an empty container, and get back to your farm to stuff more product. In the past, you would have had to hold on to that container at your facility, and not bring it to the terminal. So now you're not able to stuff more containers. This solves that problem. Again, we can talk more on that after the meeting if we would like to, but this is up and running now. We have a new 11 truck lanes here. Didn't mention this earlier, but we're doing, on average this week, just under 14,000 trucks via our gateway today. We'll average 1,300 trucks an hour at our peak hours from 8 to noon today. And no other port in the United States is averaging that type of gate transactions or fluidity through the facility. So you'll get to see that today, hopefully, those that are visiting. So what it looks like when we fully containerized, when myself and the rest of our sales teams fill this up, it'll look something like this. But it's been handed over to us to start selling it. So here's something you're familiar with, maybe the west end. Again, this is right upriver of you. You see the bridge there. To the right there, the green area, that's our ocean terminal that I mentioned to you that's being converted from break bulk and containers to 100% containers by 2028. It'll have 2 more big berths. So today we can dock 7 large ships. This will give us a capacity of 9 large vessels. And then right across the river, you can see the dirt being moved, the earthwork. That's our Savannah container terminal. Think 2030, 2032 and beyond. This will add another 3 container berths. So during COVID, we only had 6 vessel berths. This will give us a 100% increase in berth capacity. No other port in the country can boast that. We're fortunate enough to have this available land, this available capacity. Another thing to mention here, we have currently today 53 truck lanes for the 14,000 trucks that we're doing. Over the course of the next decade and beyond, between these 3 terminals, Garden City, Ocean, and the Savannah Container Terminal there on the left, we'll add another 50 truck lanes. So we'll have over 100 truck lanes, 80% increase in truck lanes. So we'll be able to do more trucks through our port gateway. So again, as you're growing, we'll be able to grow with you, and I think that's an important takeaway. Here's what Ocean Terminal looks like today. We're taking the dirt. You saw the dirt work on the left-hand side of the river. We're taking that that dirt filling in the slip here at Ocean Terminal. You see the containers on the right-hand side. This whole facility, as I said, will become 100% containers with an increase of over 2 million TEUs of annual capacity. It'll look something like this. So there's the first, you saw, I mentioned the 4 blue cranes. Here we are, the full complement of those cranes, 2 more berths, and you can see the containers there. There'll be rail in the background. There's the bridge. I said we're going to be raising the bridge over the next 3 years. This is the where we are. This is the side of the island that we're on today. This is Hutchinson Island. You can see the bridge in the background there. Again, they're moving this dirt to fill that slip in. This is the future Savannah Container Terminal. 3 more berths, 3+ million TEUs of annual capacity. That's down the road. All these projects are moving forward. It'll look something like this. So I think these artist renderings are great to kind of give you an idea of what things will look like. From an import perspective, I like to point out this. I just think this is a neat fact. The bridge there. Once you get on the bridge, leave either one of these 2 facilities. You're no stoplights or stop signs to Atlanta. So you're 4 hours to Atlanta, get a container, and you're moving to market. So from an import perspective, that's very important. For an export perspective, those imports help drive the empty equipment that you all need to support your operations. So growth-wise, we're at a capacity of 7 million 20-foot annual containers today. By 2030, 2032, 12 million TEUs. And if you could roll this out to another 30 years, 2050, we have a roadmap to 20 million capacity down the road. So we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to expand. We're going to continue to meet the demands of the state and what's asking of the port. But it's an exciting place. I'm passionate about it. And if you ever need anything, like I said, I'll be here to answer any questions you have. And these are the last 2 slides. Kind of globally, we talk about the Panama Canal a lot. You read this, and this makes a lot of headlines. We're back up to 35 daily ships. If you follow what happens at the canal, they're still running on technology from the early 1900s when they built the original locks. So it's still freshwater lakes that fill the new Panama Canal. And during this past 2023, they actually had the worst drought since the 1950s at the Panama Canal. It had an impact, not so much Savannah, but it was very newsworthy because ships were backing up at anchor waiting to get through. Not really a major impact for Savannah as our container ships pay a premium to be in line and transit the canal. So as long as they're on time, they were able to come through. But it caught a lot of news for tankers and breakbulk vessels, smaller ships that don't pay that toll. But we're back up. They've had rain now. We're kind of in the rainy part of the year. And so they're back up to 35 ships a week, almost just 1 down from where we were, 35 a day, from last year. And then the last thing I was going to mention was the Suez Canal. You follow this news, this is probably the biggest impact. So the Panama Canal is back to normal, not really an issue anymore. We'll put that behind us. The Suez Canal continues, you follow the Houthi pirates. This continues to be a concern of ours. Every ship now is traveling around the Cape of Good Hope. So this adds about 9 to 10 days extra transit time. So from an import perspective, our importers are having to carry more product in their warehouses to avoid these delays and get freight to market. Lessons learned from COVID. So you're seeing higher cost. You're seeing more ships in transit. It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 vessels additional per service lane because these ships are now in transit rather than be worked at port. They're on this longer loop, longer transit, not only to the United States East Coast, but also to Europe. So there's more ships now. That's driving up cost, driving up rates. It's also from an exporter perspective, there's an equipment shortage that's happening because all that equipment is now still on ships, still in transit on these longer transits. So those are a couple things we're seeing globally that you may have to deal with until this thing clears up and that there's more empty equipment on land and less ships actually in transit.